All right, folks. Good morning, and you're flying Tironan's very unfriendly skies. Today we have the Hinkle 111 V something, and this is a bit of a cautionary tale. I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort making sure that I got the special project I got from Burning Shores. And to say that I am not a good bomber pilot is a massive understatement. Never really liked them that much, but you know what the hell? It's a new something new, something new I can show on the channel, and that's always a good thing. But as far as value for the dollar here, for me, and this is strictly for me, by the way, it is not something that I'm willing to repeat again for bombers. And you're going to ask, okay, well, he gave me an opinion. Why? To me, solo bombers are not a good investment unless it's something like the RB-17. And the reason is they tend to be helpless against fighters that can get up to their territory, and the fighters that can get up into their altitude territory are generally fairly ferocious in firepower. Now, this is a Tier 4 fighter, or Tier 4 bomber, excuse me. First off, it does do the job. Okay, if you line up correctly, you can absolutely tear up a site. But the problem is that unless the plane is fairly torn up in the first place, the intercepting aircraft is fairly torn up, you really don't have too much of a chance. Excuse me while I have a burping contest that you're not hearing. And I am going to be drinking my coffee. I'm still trying to wake up this morning. So you're going to have, I've been thinking about this, and look, I spent some money on this, and didn't spend a whole lot of money. Spent a very tiny amount of money and a whole lot of effort to get this. Yeah, I got to make this investment work. Okay. Because the only thing I've got to show you, at least in the first two runs with this, is utter failure. Well, that doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. And the other was the sheer amount of time that I put in getting this. Well, I knew I was getting a bomber. It was not like World of War planes ripped me off or something. Just knock that one off. But it's not something that, if you don't give a lot of time and effort on how you deploy it, is going to pay off well for you. Now, this is a premium aircraft. It's got the so-so pilots. They both came with 1 point, but you don't do well against things like that you're going to run across, like the SC-100, the 192 bow fighters, which at this level are common as dirt. They just kill you. And it comes with some answers. You'll see that, once the ground attack aircraft below me were taken care of, they just came up and ate my lunch. This will be a recurring theme as you watch. Now, understand, when it comes to bombers, I've flown them maybe a total, and all the time that I've been here, 8 times, 7 times. And the bombers I have are all German bombers. And by the way, it's also historically accurate, just in case you have an interest in such things. German medium bombers are not famous for remarkable resiliency or self-defense capabilities. They just weren't. And it's not like the Germans are fools. They definitely did not, they definitely had a plan. And that plan was that they would be escorted by very capable fighters, and a lot of them, i.e. the Battle of Britain, where they lost lots of bombers, but Britain lost lots of fighters because of the opposing fighters. That being said, you've got to use your head here, and I really gave this some thought. And so, what's the solution? Well, the solution is you're going to have to go where the ground attack aircraft are going. And you're going to have to follow them in a dogged fashion. Because if the defending fighters and humans are down there fighting the ground attack fighters, they're usually not too worried about you. And that gives you a shot of doing what you need to do. Now, you don't fly ground attack fighters and not expect to get shot down. If you do, this may not be the game for you if you want to play ground attack fighters. But it's also equally true of bombers. And you can do a nice job for your side. But don't expect your self-defense armament and these German bombers to do a whole heck of a lot for you. They just don't, as you can see. And mind you, this thing, if you pull it down, you can see all sorts of 7.62 machine guns sticking out of it from the sides, from the back, from the bottom, from the front. But they are 7.62s and they are single mounts. Alright, so you're not, or 7.92s, excuse me. It's the Mauser round. But they're still rifle caliber machine guns, and they don't vary a whole lot by country in their actual damaging effect. And 30 caliber machine guns are not going to get it done. Okay, unless they come in quartets, so then they can start doing some damage. Alright, so that's what you got here. And as we progress along, you'll notice, I've showed up at two sites, gotten shot down at two sites. Looking back at this, I just need to be a whole lot more cautious about making sure that it's someplace that ground attack aircraft are actually working it over. That draws the fighters and the humans down low. You can operate up high, and when they start getting low, you need to start thinking about exiting the area post-haste. And maneuvering this, and by the way, for those who have not used this before, it's left shift to get to the bomb site. It's T to get to your tail gunner. I'm sure that 99.9% of you already know this, but for the new guys, there's the commands. Again, that's left shift to get to your bomber sites, right shift to, or T to get to your tail gunner, and T again to get off your tail gunner and back to normal operation. And you notice it would be bad enough that you have one aircraft after you, but they tend to come at you at swarms. That particular fellow kind of made it his career to go after me every time he saw me, which is a smart move, because if you don't get a bomber, they will reduce the site pretty quickly. All right. So we lost it. I came in number 2, still got a decent score out of it, don't get me wrong, but, you know, overall I'm wondering, this is not great. And it's got to be a balancing operation. Obviously, you know, well, a lot of us that operating against the RB-17 that don't think much of the balancing act they did with that, because that thing is awfully powerful in its own tier and below. Especially if it's up tiered against a bunch of lower tier fighters. The RB-17 is an awful lot to handle. I won't go over the stats. You can see it as well as I can. Okay, so I basically, let's just go on back to battle. So as to the purchase, well, your standard bomber in here just doesn't excite me a whole lot. Okay, as they sit right now. Now, meta's changed. We discussed this the day before. You know, you guys that are, you know, I don't know how the meta will change in the future. Right now, I can guarantee you that you want to go ahead and use bombers down low. You're going to see a lot of damage, and the only people I ever see low these days are RB-17s. I also don't have too much of a problem killing an RB-17 that comes in low. Maybe your experience is different. I can't speak to that. But you saw in my flying pancake arrow, I think I caught 5 RB-17s low, and I killed every last one of them. Now, I catch them up high, and I kill them too, because of the M39 cannons on there. They make pretty short work of everything. And because of the speed on them, they even have a fair amount of success against the 262s. That's one quick aircraft. But I'm not overly excited with the standard bombers the way they sit right now. I don't mean they need to be overpowering, but you really got to consider what you're doing with them, and how you deploy them, and how you use them. But my best advice at this point, having played this, 4 times, 5 times, whatever it was, I'm just giving you the best of the results right now. And you'll notice that 2 of the 3 are just absolutely wipeouts, and the third isn't that great. Now, I notice that some people play these things all the time. And there's also a mea culpa here. I am not, by any stretch of an imagination, a bomber pilot. Don't really understand them the way they could. So if you have suggestions, this is the time and the forum to do it. I'm not going to mitigate the fact that I may not be playing it as well as it should be played. In fact, I'm pretty darn certain that I am not. So that being said, what do we have? Well, right now I'm not that happy with the purchase or the effort I put into it. But, like I said, it's something different for you guys to see. Thought y'all might enjoy it. And it is something different. Whether you like it or dislike it, it's something different. And trust me, as much as I like the pancake, it will be a good long time before I climb back in one again. And between that and I did not get the pumpkin thing, by the way, so I am not going to spend 12 hours a day, 2 days in a row to get a contest. I finally just realized I'm not willing to do that no matter what the prize is. I don't know about y'all, but I would hate to think that I'm spending half my or 2/3 of my waking hours playing a game for a contest. But I did get this from Burning Shores. Again, I wasn't very excited by the Viper enough to continue on with the Flapjack campaign. And frankly, it really disrupts my production on the channel. And when I start looking at that, I start having to weigh the gains over the loss, and I found the losses to be higher than the gains. And this is a case in point. Not that, and I want to stress once again, under no circumstances was I cheated or lied to by World of Warplanes. This is my decisions. And you have to live with them, right? I'm an adult. But that being said, would I do this again? For bombers, unless I'm convinced that it's a really decent bomber and something I can make an impact on the game with, probably not. And as a note to World of Warplanes, if you're going to ask people to spend that kind of time and effort in a game to get a prize, it needs to be pretty worth it. Okay? I think the break for me was when I saw the Viper and I just realized I didn't care about it. Didn't want it. Didn't get the one thing I wanted to get out of Burning Shores, which was the Vampire. Could have enjoyed that one a little bit, but I didn't get it. So that's life in the big city. I'm not crying about it, but you know, there's got to be at least a fun aircraft. Right now, I don't know that I'll ever pick this up again, unless I figure out how to play it better. If I do, then maybe that'll be a different subject. But I've got 3 bombers now, and none of them exactly excite me as a playstyle. And that's not unusual. You know, World of Warplanes, I have carriers too. And I finally yanked out every good carrier pilot and put them on the things I actually use. Now, I understand that's changed, but, you know, I'm kind of committed to World of Warplanes right now, and I think I'm the only content provider that's providing a fairly steady stream of content, as opposed to a once-in-a-while type of thing that's left on the channel. So, kind of dedicated to what we have here, you know. No, I'm not the biggest content provider by a very long shot for World of Warplanes, but by God, I'm the one you got, and I feel a responsibility to do that. So if I start doing a lot of, you know, World of Warships or something else, then, you know, there's a community out there, albeit we're not large, that I'm not serving. And so you get the idea. When I do that, a World of Warplanes or a World of Tanks or an Armored Warfare, it's to give you guys a chance to see something different, and I need a break once in a while. As Monty Python would say, now for something really different, or totally different, or whatever he said. And by the way, there's lots of people out there that love British humor. I'm not one of them. I never found it all that entertaining, but that's me. All right.
Are approaching the area of combat operations. Be ready.
Okay, so we're lining up here for my third attempt at this. This is a lower tier map. I had some hopes that, you know, hey, you're up tier against most of the people, you'll do better. Yes and no.
You are approaching the front line. Off we go.
All right, one thing I am going to tell you is you need to get some altitude. Sometimes it drops you at 62, which is fine. Sometimes it drops you in at 54, which is not so good. Especially in these lower tiers, there's going to be a lot of aircraft that can't get up to you or are going to have a lot of difficulty getting up to you. You need to take advantage of that to the maximum degree you can. One of the things that I'm considering is trying this again with jump this up another couple of thousand feet and see if that doesn't help a little bit as well. Okay, so we've expended our entire bomb load here, and you'll see that we actually helped take the site. You can do all your steering by radar. I want to suggest it's just easier to get yourself out of bomb view, go back to, hit left shift again, and just go find your next target. Now, in the benefit of hindsight, I would recommend strongly that you find where your friendly aircraft are going, and you want to go there. Especially if you see GA. You want to follow them in. They'll drag your opposition down low. You've got some time to drop your bombs. But one of the things I kind of counseled myself about was, look, if you go into 3 different sites with the GA, do you really expect to survive the experience? Well, truthfully, no. You don't really get past more than a site or 2 before you destroy it. Yeah, but the new meta, the tough AA, the uprated air defense fighters, it's very tough to survive over a site. And it's not going to be that much easier with bombers, right? Okay, so that may be the case, but we're going to go ahead and take out the AA guns while we can. Well, that was a theory anyway. Now, the enemy has taken the rocket base, so do I really want to hang out long enough for the base to respawn and have some legitimate targets, or am I going to get out of there? Well, the base is respawned, so that answers that question. Now, isn't the old days where, AA was kind of effective, but not so much you really had to worry about it all that much? Nowadays, it's a real threat. Okay, I've dropped all my bombs. I should say, now I've dropped all my bombs. And yes, the vengeful fighters from hell are after me. Now, by the way, that wasn't my decision. It was, the tail gunner was shifting targets. And I was trying to shift back so I could destroy one of them before this happened. Alright, so following that philosophy, I am going to go in when the GA and our friendly fighters are going in, and I'll follow them in. This isn't a very fast aircraft. Obviously, the defense armament isn't anything to crow about. What it does offer is a lot of resilience for its tier. You're talking a tier 4 aircraft. You know, you're still looking at open cockpits and stuff. So, you know, this is not state-of-the-art, end of the war, World War II sort of stuff. This is stuff that you might have seen at the very beginning of the war. I don't believe the HE-111 was used in offensive roles much past 1943. Interestingly enough, it had a lot of variants. If you're really interested in that, check out the Wikipedia page and all the variants for the HE-111. Towards the end of the war, if it wasn't an Dorado, they weren't building it. Because that was one of the few aircraft that it could offer them real reconnaissance capabilities, and they get the aircraft back. Whether they keep them in the air or not, that was another thing entirely. Alright, that's the end of the ground load, or my bomb load. And the site's all but taken, which is a nice thing. Maybe they can finish it up. Okay, so how do I feel about it? Well, I'm not that convinced that I'm all that good of a bomber pilot. And like I said, that's okay. You know, I wasn't that good a ground attack pilot when I started with that too. I'll learn. If you guys have suggestions, well, let me know. As it sits right now, I'm grateful for the fact that I got an aircraft really cheap. And I'm grateful for the fact that I got to show you something different. Yeah. It's no secret that I've got some tier 8s and some tier 9s that I'm working on, trying to get them up to tier 10, and then I'm up to an open question of, okay, now that you've raised up everything on all the main lines, what do we do with the channel? And that's an open, very worrisome issue for me, because I've got 5, 6 tier 10s and lots of things that are coming closer and closer to becoming tier 10s. And past a certain point, you know, how many times do you want to see tier 10s? Well, maybe not so much. I don't know. I'd hate to be a new player and watch Tironan's non-stop replays of high tier aircraft and wonder what the hell I'm going to see. I'm not going to be flying these aircraft forever, you know. So it's a real concern to me. And again, your suggestions, you're the guys that are watching this, what do you want to see in the future? All right, so we got one win, and the second one, I think we're going to lose no matter what. They were just, that's one of those wax your tail feathers types of losses. So I don't know that I count that too much. Was it worth it? Yeah, I think so. Just for, if nothing else, to give you guys something else to look at than the standard stuff that I'm normally putting out. It's nice to have a wholly different sort of experience, and that's what this offers you. But I will also say an awful lot of effort went into this. I probably lost a day's worth of production over this, doing it. But I got to show the aircraft, so for whatever it's worth, there you go. Listen, I hope you enjoyed the experience. Please take the time to like the video, to subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.